KMSU?
Yes, this is Kurt Angle calling in.
Mr. Angle, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. It's an honor to be speaking with you.
Thank you.
I'll introduce you to my co-host, Ton.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great. Glad to have you on the line. If you're ready to go, we'll get started.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, first, we need to say congratulations on your upcoming induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. How do you feel about it?
Oh, it's great. I wasn't really expecting it at this point in my life. I thought maybe 10 years from now, but I'll take it. It's a great honor, and be inducted to be one of the best in the WWE history. And I was only there for about 6 years, so it's great to know that I made an impact in that short a time.
Yeah, obviously when they announced it, though, everybody still knows who you are, of course, and everybody's pretty excited.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, this is a new generation, but I believe the WWE Network, them showing former matches and stuff like that, and me staying active in pro wrestling after WWE, I think both definitely helped out a little bit.
Well, we know it's a ways out, but do you know if Stone Cold will be inducting you? I read that's who you're hoping to get on board.
That's who I thought would be. They haven't told me yet. So I don't know. I know that WWE usually picks the person. So if it was my choice, it would be between Undertaker, Stone Cold, and probably John Cena. I'm hoping I get one of the three, but Steve was my first choice.
Well, maybe we'll ask you some wrestling questions again in a bit here, but I know we're talking today about your new mobile app, the Angle Strong Recovery Management app. Definitely sounds like something a lot of people could use. Can you explain to the listeners a bit about how it works?
Yes, I'm a recovering addict of 4 years, and when I went to rehab and understood everything the way it works as an addict, and I got out, there wasn't any aftercare. It was pretty much you just stay clean and go to AA meetings and hopefully it'll work out. 21 million people in America have a drug disorder. Only 10% go to rehab, and only 5% of that 10%, which is about 100,000 people, stay in recovery. They don't have much of a way to stay clean after they get out of rehab, or even if they don't go to rehab. This is a great app that guides you through, and I'm going to be there with you every step of the way. I'm going to have a monthly Skype call with the recovering addicts of Angle Strong, and we're excited to bring it to the public. The one thing the app does. We wanted loved ones and sponsors to be able to have some form of contact with the recovering addict, the patient. If you check in daily, they know you're okay. If you don't check in, they are notified. So, and it's also GPS enabled, so if you do relapse, we're going to find you.
Well, do you know, Kurt, has there ever been something like this before? It seems like there should have been.
There probably was. They didn't really fly too well. I really believe the reason is because a lot of celebrities and bigger names that have gone through rehab, they were told to keep it quiet by their agency or their public relations firm. With me, I saw an epidemic that kept getting worse. We had almost 60,000 people die in the last 2 years from opioid overdoses. It's getting worse and worse every year. This is the worst epidemic in U.S. history. So I figured I need to do my part by telling my story and being a public figure and talking about my addiction so that other people can relate to it.
And so with this app, are you going to be checking in monthly with people's progress and different things? How involved will you be?
Oh, we're involved. It's heavily involved. And the thing is, there are many programs that we're going to have on the anglestrong.com website. So it's not just the app, it's the whole initiative. We're going to have fitness and wellness tips, daily positive messages, monthly Skype call with me where every member of Angle Strong will be on Skype call with me. This is a guidance so they can get through it every day. I realized that when I went to rehab, it was really difficult to come amends that I'm never going to take the drug again. That's the hardest thing to think of is, wow, I'm never going to be able to do this again. This is a daily approach. I've taken it to every day, one day by day, that as long as I stay clean today, I'm okay. So I don't really think long time. I just want to stay clean for the day. And that's one of our messages is just stay clean today and don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday.
And so where can the listeners download this app?
Well, right now it's on the Android at Google Play. It will be on the iPhone at the App Store next week. If you want to sign up for it, go to anglestrong.com. We have a lot of things going on with the website. We want everybody to be engaged and be in tune with me and my team.
Yeah, it's a great thing that you put together here. You know, as you mentioned, a lot of the higher profile people, if they struggle with addiction, they kind of keep it on the down low. And we're here in Minnesota. Obviously, we still talking about Prince and his addiction issues.
Right.
So, I mean, with somebody like you comes out and says, hey, you know, everybody can have this problem and there's ways to get beyond it. I think it's great that you're doing that work.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not doing it for the money. There isn't much in it. What I'm doing it for is I want to help other people, and I don't want people to have to go through the same turmoil I did for the past 12 years. I realize that there's a lot of hope. You know, this thing isn't like we do condone 12-step program, but this is more of a positive message initiative. We're not telling you that things are going to be bad for a while. It's really about embracing your new life and looking forward to it. And if you want to talk about your addiction, go ahead and do it. Don't be ashamed about it anymore. It's just about embracing your new life and having a new life to look forward to.
Sounds really awesome. And you talk about struggling with it yourself, but it sounds like you're in a good place now and feeling good physically and everything.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I've been clean for 4 years, and you know, I've been very blessed. I've been able to be reunited with my kids and my wife and family. It's been an incredible experience for me, and I realize that the drug's not important to me anymore. What's important to me is staying clean for my family and living for the good Lord.
Well, and of course, Kurt, with that being said, we got to ask you if you think maybe you'll be back in the ring for WWE. We know WrestleMania is coming up, and if you're feeling good, can we see you back in the ring maybe?
Well, I did talk to Triple H last month, and we came to an agreement to start with the Hall of Fame. There wasn't any talk of anything afterward. I would imagine that I will have pretty much a long-term deal with the company, with WWE. I don't think it's just going to be a short-term thing, but we didn't talk about wrestling. We didn't talk about being an ambassador or anything like that. It was just, let's get the Hall of Fame done. Let's see where it goes from there. And, you know, if the fans want it, I'm sure that WWE is going to want to do it too. So we haven't talked about it yet, but hopefully down the road it could happen.
That would be amazing. You were one of the funnier guys in wrestling. It was amazing to watch you entertain people.
Well, I like making an ass out of myself. It wasn't that hard to do, and a lot of guys don't want to do it. But if I go out there and make people laugh, that made me feel good.
So, were you always kind of that way in life? Like even back to collegiate wrestling, and just is that your personality, or did you like to play around? Or
no, I had no idea I had any kind of talent like that. I was pretty serious. I was a hard grit wrestler. I won national titles, world titles, Olympic titles. But when Vince McMahon told me one night to go out there and cut a promo, I never did it before. and you know, he told me what to do. He talked to me for 5 minutes. And I said, could you repeat that? Because I didn't hear a word you said. and he repeated it again, and I went out there and said it word for word. And he said, whoa, we have something special here. So I didn't know I could do it till and I have to give Mr. McMahon credit. He came up with my character. He went with the direction. He had a great writer named Brian Gewertz that was writing material for me, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, coming from obviously your background, it would maybe be tough to get into wrestling and not to do it for real as you've been used to, and kind of not be the serious guy. But I mean, besides the wrestling, you had the promo skills. You know, it was only 6 years you mentioned, but it seems like you were there for so much longer.
Yeah, it did, and I think it was because I was at the tail end of the Attitude Era, and then the next era, the Ruthless Aggression Era. So. It was cool to be in that ring with guys like Stone Cold, Triple H, and The Rock, and Undertaker, and John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton. We had a lot of fun, and pro wrestling was all about fun. The travel and the matches, it was hard on my body, and I had a lot of injuries that led to the painkillers that led to my issue of why I left. But I really did have a blast. It was a lot of fun, and to be able to celebrate it here and at the end of March, it'll be a lot of fun for me.
So I've got to ask. Some of the matches I've seen with you have been some of the greatest that I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Now, is there any kind of favorite match that sticks out in your mind, or favorite opponent over time?
Well, it's tough. I mean, I did have a lot of great matches, and it wasn't just me. It was the guys I wrestled: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Rock, Triple H. But Benoit in 2003 Royal Rumble. Wow. I actually, when I walked backstage, Triple H walked up to me and said, "Kurt, you just raised the bar." And I was only in the business 3 years. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't even know what I'm doing yet," and he's telling me that I'm the best. I would say Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21, Brock Lesnar, the Iron Man match we had on SmackDown, Undertaker 2006, No Way Out. There were a lot of great ones. Those stuck out, but I'd have to say because WrestleMania is the biggest event, it would be Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21.
Great match.
Thank you.
You had a lot of great matches in TNA as well, and a lot of those guys that you worked with there are now in the WWE. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's finally a time that they arrived? And
long overdue, deservingly so. AJ Styles, I've been saying this for years. He is as good as Shawn Michaels ever was. Samoa Joe's working his way up through the ranks. Bobby Roode, Austin Aries. I wrestled all those guys, and they're incredibly talented.
So I guess another question that I always kind of often wondered. So you are very skilled, obviously, as you mentioned, Olympic medalist here.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you have friends and whatnot that you knew from that lifestyle. What do they think of when you went into professional wrestling, and what was that relationship like?
It was the same as what I felt before I started. I never watched pro wrestling. As a matter of fact, I didn't start watching it until I signed with WWE in late 1998, early 99. That's right about when I signed. I was always told that it was fake, stay away from it. You're the real deal. Those guys aren't. But I realized very quickly when I took my first few bumps in pro wrestling, I actually quit the first day. I took 3 bumps and I told my manager, "I'm not doing this. This is self-mutilation." So I once I got in there, and because WWE was so popular, the Attitude Era, I think a lot of the wrestlers said, "Wow, this is not a bad idea. I'm going to try it too." So you had guys like Charlie Haas, Brock Lesnar. You had Shelton Benjamin, Jack Swagger. A lot of former amateur wrestlers started going into it, and I think I started a new era of wrestlers that saw the opportunity. Not a lot of them did it, but there were a few that had a lot of success. Now, there are probably more than you heard of because it is so hard to go from amateur to pro. It's probably the worst transition you could make. You're better off being a basketball player or a football player than being a wrestler. You can't turn that instinct off. When you're an amateur wrestler, you go for the kill, and your instincts, you only go by reaction. You're not thinking. You're not including the crowd. You're not showing emotion. You're showing zero emotion. So it was the hardest thing I did. So basically, I just forgot everything I learned for the first 25 years of my life, and I decided I was going to learn a new career, and I took a different approach. I just said, "Lead me. You guys are the wrestlers. You're the experts. Lead me around the ring and show me what to do." And I was a great listener, and because I was a great listener, I became a great leader.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And obviously your accolades brought a whole new sort of twist to a character where it was like we completely believed that it wasn't just a character that McMahon made up. You were Kurt Angle with these medals, and you were this guy.
Well, you know what the great thing is? Make no mistake about it. I was legit. I was an Olympic gold medalist, and I probably could have crushed anybody I wanted before I broke my neck. the second time in WWE, not the first time in the Olympics, but I was a badass. But it was easy for me to make an ass out of myself and be funny, and also be in the ring and people take me seriously because of my accolades. So my character was easier to pull off than most other characters.
Yeah, and it's great that you are so open to that because obviously you could come in there and be the tough guy, and maybe people would be afraid to work with you because they weren't sure if you would forget where you were, which mat you were on.
I had a lot of guys that would say that to me after they wrestled me, and the fact is, I was pretty stiff in the ring. In WWE, I laid in. I didn't know any other way, so I learned how to finesse a little bit after WWE and the other company. But in WWE, I was a stiff son of a gun, and the wrestlers would feel it, and they knew it. They weren't like angry or upset about it, but I got the reputation of being really stiff, especially by Hulk Hogan.
So, is there? Do you have any stories where anyone started to shoot on you or anything, and you had to resort to it?
You know what? It's never happened. I would be in shock if it did. But the thing is, I think everybody knew if that was going to occur, that my instincts would have taken over. Yeah. So I really never had to worry about that. It probably saved me in a lot of instances in my career. So I kind of knew that they had respect for me.
Absolutely. So you also, as you mentioned, you got in still at a time where maybe there was quite a bit of road time for you guys as wrestlers, and lots of crazy stuff still possibly happening. Any interesting stories you'd like to share there?
Well, unfortunately, you know what? A lot of my career there, especially the last 3 years, were very dark and gloomy, and I don't remember much. I was hooked pretty good, and you have to remember back then WWE just became a publicly traded company, and they didn't start drug testing right away. So I was doing stuff that that you're not allowed to do now. I also was able to get back to the ring after my injuries earlier than you can now, because now you really have to be cleared by a doctor. Back then, I broke my neck, and 6 weeks later I was back in the ring. So WWE has done a great job of the health policy and the wellness policy and the drug policy, especially the last 7 or 8 years. When I was there, it was a little different. So I don't remember a lot of stories. I do remember just going in there every night and banging heads. And we were doing 300 shows a year, so it was a pretty tough schedule. They don't have that schedule like that now.
Well, again, Kurt, it's great that you're in a great place, as you mentioned, and the Angle Strong Recovery Management mobile app is available, and again, you're going into the Hall of Fame, and really, it's long overdue, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of big names left. You were kind of like a San Martino, maybe. It didn't make sense that you weren't on the list.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Awesome, Kurt. It's been really excellent talking with you. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, guys. Take care, man.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.